Okay, guys, we're on the brink of a financial meltdown, potentially larger than 2008, 2009. And if you know anything, the financial industry and the entire markets, our financial backbones of the country, were at risk in 2008, 2009. And if you take a look here, we have already had the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, which were the second and third largest bank failures in the history of the United States, and have already happened here just in a matter of a few days here ago. Okay, this was the second and third largest bank failures in the history of the US. And smaller only to 2008 collapse of Washington Mutual. Okay, again, that was 2008, 2009. And now we've already had two banks happen here. And I'll show you how big these banks are because they're massive banks, right? Okay. Now we have a third bank. Well, and we also had a couple other smaller banks here happen already. Okay, and it's kind of crypto related here. We're not even counting those, but now we have an even larger bank, First Republic Bank, in rescue talks with the biggest U.S. lenders. Okay, so now we have an even larger banks that could be failing here as well. Yeah. So this shows you how in deep doo doo these banks are. And there's a run on these banks happening because people are scared. People are scared and wondering um, if their bank could be next. And I'll show you here on this list here on the largest banks in America here. So here's the list of the top banks in the US by assets. Okay, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citigroup, Wells Fargo in the trillions. Okay. And then it goes down considerably to, those are 3, 2, 1.7, 1.7 trillion. And then you go down to the billions. Okay, US Bank Corp, PNC, Truist Bank, Goldman Sachs, Capital One. You would think Capital One sounds like a really big company, but 450 billion. TD Group, Bank of New York Mellon, State Street, Citizens Financial, First Republic Bank. That's the one now that they're worried about here. And literally on the brink here right now, Morgan Stanley, and then right below Morgan Stanley at 209 billion was Silicon Valley Bank that was also at 209 billion. Okay, so Morgan Stanley, everybody knows Morgan Stanley at 209 billion in assets. Silicon Valley Bank also had 209 billion dollars in assets. That's how big Silicon Valley Bank was. It was 16th on the largest bank list ever in the United States. So if you've heard of Morgan Stanley, which most people probably have, that's how big Silicon Valley Bank was, who just failed. Okay. And Signature Bank, who just failed, was worth $110 billion. Okay. That bank just failed here as well. Yeah. So this is a really big thing here. And now First Republic is on the brink here as well, worth a little bit more at the 14th of the largest banks ever in the history of the United States. Okay. And uh yeah, so this is the thing here is that they're in rescue talks with the largest US lenders. And when you're in rescue talks, that means that you're on the brink of financial distress. And this is coming as depositors are fleeing and literally withdrawing their money. And when that's happening, that means you already have a run happening on the bank. When you see headlines like this on the Wall Street Journal, you damn well know that people are literally running to the banks or their online banking systems and withdrawing their money. I mean, Think about if you had your money at this bank and the Wall Street Journal says the depositors are fleeing to withdraw their money. And if you have your money at this bank, what do you think you're going to do? Yeah. Now, the US government and the FDIC did a really good job here just a few days ago and basically said, well, we're going to step in and guarantee people over and above the $250,000 with the previous banks. That was a really good job. And that really satisfied everybody and made sure that people weren't going to lose their money, especially corporations, because the majority of money at Silicon Valley Bank was actually corporations, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and it was a corporate type of bank that primarily had their money there. Okay, and I know it kind of has a negative connotation with Silicon Valley. You think, ooh, it's people getting rich, whatever, but nonetheless is that it was a lot of businesses there. Okay, and believe it or not, the majority of the money that was there was over the $250,000 limit because it was businesses that had their payroll there. They had their, they were paying for their employees, and a lot of the money would have been lost. The government stepped in and said, we're going to make sure that everybody gets their money back. And some people might be saying, "Oh, that's not good. We're going to have to bail out these banks or bail out these investors or whatever not." But it's actually a really good thing because if our banking system fails, imagine the domino effect of what this could mean. And that's absolutely the worst thing that could happen, especially right now with everything going on here. Us probably already in a recession. We have a massive war going on. Russia just shot down one of our planes or our drones, and there's just literally so much uncertainty right now. It's just it seems like it's just one thing after another. And now, if our banking system fails and people can't even trust their money being at the bank, no matter what bank it is, where are you going to keep your money? In your mattress, so that when you leave home, are you worried about it then? You literally can't go to the grocery store because you worry that somebody could rob you when you leave home. Uh, that's not safe either. Um, so, and then you got to remember here that the other problem with this is that nowadays, everybody, not everybody, but most people get paid to their online checking accounts nowadays. I mean, even like Social Security, SNAP benefits, government pensions, 401ks, everything kind of goes through online bank accounts now. That's money in the bank, right? So like this, you got to think about this. This is like paper cash and like pennies and quarters, all this stuff. Like it really, it's going the way of being obsolete. I mean, it's not there yet, but at some point in the future, it could be. It could be, and I know that everybody would be all like worked up about that, but like in a way, not many people use paper cash anymore. I know some people do. I get it. But like even like Social Security and all this stuff, like now it gets deposited via online accounts. You know what I'm saying? They don't send you paper checks anymore. You don't get cash on a lot of things here. If you get paid via a job, they don't really cut paper checks anymore. I mean, sure, some places do, but more and more of this stuff is going to direct deposit, ACH. It just gets sent to you automatically, and it's quicker, it's faster. Even like the IRS is, if you look at the history of the years, more and more people just get auto direct deposited because you don't have to wait weeks and weeks and weeks for them to print a check and then send it in the mail and hope it doesn't get lost. And it just takes like way longer as opposed to literally the day that they process your return, you can get it that day or the next day. As opposed to if you're waiting on a paper check, they have to it literally will take weeks longer. And if it gets lost in the mail, you're SOL, and that could take months trying to go through that process of like getting a new one printed. Yeah. So it's like I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, but like as the years have gone by, more and more and more people are just switching over to direct deposit. You get your money pretty much the next day. Yeah. And we've seen that with the stimulus checks here, people getting their money almost the next day. It's amazing. People waiting on the paper checks, and then the problem with that is that some people never get their check. It gets lost. Or if they move, the IRS has their old address on file. And guess what happens? The check gets sent to the old address on file, which is a nightmare. And it's just like it's so it's it just creates so many problems, right? And this is the issue. There's just so many issues. So we're moving more and more on to a digital society, online bank accounts, all this stuff. So if the government doesn't guarantee this, what is guaranteed? And this kind of goes to the full faith and credit of the United States, which is kind of guaranteeing the banking system. And now when we're seeing these major banks fail, even though it's not the US government, it kind of is. It kind of makes you think it is because if your bank fails, little, Sally and Bob and John and, Susie and Mary, they're thinking the government has failed me, right? You know, if my mom and dad have money at the local bank and the local bank fails and you don't get your money out, what are they thinking? They're thinking the government has failed me. They didn't protect me. And this is kind of the problem if the government doesn't step in and make this situation whole, which they did. But the problem here now is that we're seeing more problems down the road. This is just the beginning of a larger financial crisis. Remember that 2008 and 2009 took years for it to play out and finish, and for markets to come back, and for people to get their jobs back. The Great Recession, took years to recover. It was interesting here when we had the pandemic. The markets went down really fast and recovered really fast. I was actually shocked at how fast the markets recovered there. All the stimulus that was pumped in um, made the market shoot back up really fast. I was stunned by how fast that happened because, we had the country literally shut down for the first time ever. I was floored by that as well. Who would have ever thought that our country would literally come to a shutdown? The markets plummeted. It was like 40% or so, depending on what index. And then the stimulus was pumped in and it shot back up, not fully to the plus 40% back, but eventually it came back and then hit new highs and almost in record time. And it was like, wow. But again, the government kind of stepped in there and said, we're gonna, try to make this right. Of course, it was a virus and all this thing, and of course, we're still dealing with it, and the virus is still here and may not ever go away. You know, that's kind of a whole nother issue, right? We're not going to go into that here in this video, but this is the problem here: is like how much contagion and how much banking problems here are here, and what's the underlying issue? Why are all these banks failing? And this could lead to a big, massive problem here. How much debt these banks have, why they're all failing now here in a row, all of a sudden, quickly. And, if you've seen some of those banking movies back from the Great Recession, how they were all in trouble, all in a row, all quickly. This is what's happening now. And it's pretty scary because when our banking system is on the brink of a collapse, it can bring the whole system down. And that's what happened in 2008, 2009. We were literally right on the brinks of our whole system collapsing, and we very narrowly escaped it last time. And the question is, could this happen this time as well? And how will they avert it? And will they avert it? And what's going to happen here this time? So I'll keep you up to date here, but this is literally unfolding here right now. We've already had the second and third largest banks to fold, to go under, already happen here now within the matter of the last few days. And now we have a third bank who's larger than both of those banks in distress already. So you guys can let me know your thoughts, and I'll keep you up to date here as it unfolds. So if you appreciate these videos, don't forget to hit the like button for us. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe down below and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on new videos. Here's some videos you should watch next. Here's a video I just did about the banks, Social Security, and investing. Good video there. And here's a video I just did about Russia attacking the US. Yeah, so click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.